You have a task that is due tomorrow. It is important. You know it is important. You sit down at your desk, open your laptop, and stare at the blank document. Your chest tightens. A heavy, suffocating wave of resistance washes over you. Instead of typing, you open a new browser tab. Then another. 2 hours vanish into thin air. You haven't done a single piece of work, but you are completely, utterly exhausted. Why do you do this to yourself? You assume you are just lazy. You call yourself undisciplined, weak-willed, and unmotivated. You tell yourself that if you just had more willpower, you would finally get your life together. You promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow arrives, and the exact same cycle repeats itself. The modern world has convinced you that procrastination is a failure of time management. It tells you to download a new productivity app, color-code your calendar, or wake up at 5 a.m. But the real answer is far stranger. Procrastination has almost nothing to do with time management, and it has absolutely nothing to do with being lazy. To understand why you procrastinate, you have to throw away everything you think you know about how your mind works. Dr. Tim, a leading researcher on the psychology of procrastination at Carleton University, discovered a fundamental truth that changes everything. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotion regulation problem. When you put off a task, you are not failing to manage the hours in your day. You are failing to manage your own internal negative emotional states. Think about what actually happens in your brain when you look at a difficult task. You look at an upcoming project, an unwritten essay, or a messy inbox. Instantly, your brain experiences a spike of negative emotions. You feel anxiety about doing it wrong. You feel boredom because the work is tedious. You feel insecurity because you aren't sure if you are smart enough to finish it. Your brain hates negative emotions. It views emotional distress as a threat to your immediate well-being. So it looks for a fast, effortless way to make the bad feelings go away right now. This brings us to a psychological phenomenon known as present bias. Discovered by behavioral economists, present bias is your brain's hardwired tendency to heavily weigh immediate rewards and immediate relief over future consequences. Your brain lives entirely in the immediate present. When you choose to close the work document and open a video streaming app, you get an immediate dopamine hit. The anxiety vanishes. The chest tightness disappears. You feel a sudden wave of relief. You have just rewarded your brain for procrastinating. Psychologist Dr. Fuschia Sirois found that procrastination is essentially an emotional coping mechanism. When you procrastinate, you are choosing short-term mood repair over long-term success. You are sacrificing your future self to rescue your present self from feeling uncomfortable for 5 minutes. And this creates a vicious, compounding trap. The longer you put off the task, the closer the deadline gets. As the deadline approaches, your anxiety spikes to unbearable levels. Now, you are not just stressed about the original task, you are deeply ashamed of yourself for wasting time. You feel guilty. You feel like a failure. And what does your brain do when you feel intense guilt and shame? It seeks emotional relief. It drives you straight back into procrastination. You scroll on your phone to escape the crushing guilt of not working. You trap yourself inside a continuous loop of avoidance. This explains why telling yourself just do it never actually works. Pushing harder against the wall of resistance only makes you feel worse. You cannot shame yourself into productivity because shame is the exact emotion that triggered the procrastination in the first place. So how do you break the loop? How do you trick your brain into doing the work when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to run away? You have to change the game. You don't try to motivate yourself to finish the entire project. You lower the emotional stakes so drastically that your brain's alarm system doesn't even trigger. Research shows that the hardest part of any task is almost always the transition phase. The friction lives entirely at the starting line. Once you actually begin working, the anticipatory anxiety drops off a cliff. This is why the 2-minute rule is so remarkably effective. You tell yourself that you are only going to work on the task for 2 minutes. You are allowed to quit immediately after 2 minutes are up. There are 0 consequences. When you make a deal like this with your mind, you disarm the emotional threat. Your brain's alarm system relaxes because 2 minutes of mild discomfort feels completely safe. You open the document. You write one messy sentence. You fix one line of code. You clear 3 emails. And once you are already in motion, the invisible wall of resistance simply evaporates. The next time you find yourself staring at a blank screen, paralyzed by the weight of a task, stop beating yourself up. Stop calling yourself lazy. Recognize the paralysis for what it actually is, an emotional flare-up, not a character flaw. Forgive yourself for the delay. Research from Carleton University shows that students who forgave themselves for procrastinating on an exam procrastinated significantly less on the next exam. Self-forgiveness cuts the cord on the cycle of guilt. Take a slow, deep breath. Acknowledge that the discomfort you are feeling is normal. And then give yourself permission to do a terrible job for just 2 minutes. You are not broken. You are just human, constantly navigating a world that demands continuous output from a brain designed to seek comfort. Tonight, when you look at that one task you've been avoiding all week, you won't force yourself to climb a mountain. You will just take one ridiculously small step. And for the first time, you will watch the endless loop finally break apart.